Maidenhead there. To be fair to me, I mean, they can accelerate quite quick, so the lead can change a bit.
Yeah, just heading up to us, to come under us at the commentary box, and it looks pretty close. Both crews still throwing everything at it, trying to get that lead, that all-important lead if they can. Molesey look to have about half a length or so as they come towards us.
I've just lost a one.
One of our monitors has gone down here, so I'll get the technician up to have a look if he's not too glued to the football, which somebody's just told me is 3-0. It's 4-0 now. Out on the water, it's Molesey that continue to lead Maidenhead. Molesey now with a lead of about a length. The second in semi-final is up and running on the... Well, they've just gone on the start, actually. It's not yet off, but it's Molesey Boat Club that continue to lead Maidenhead in this first semi. You're watching the Junior Double Sculls, race 354. Finals will start at 20 past 2 this afternoon. The next heat of this Junior Double Sculls is on the start, waiting to go. And that sees the City of Oxford against York City. Meanwhile, it's Molesey that have got themselves a very comfortable lead. They're able now just to keep an eye on the opposition, keep the boat knocking along, and saving their energy for their final, which will be a little later on this afternoon. Okay, after a little technical hitch, we're all now back up and running, and the image we're looking at here is of Molesey.
Yeah, Molesey really total control now. In these small boats, as I said, it's incredibly difficult when there's a gap of open water to come back, because the ability to change that boat speed is so easy. Once you get out in front without the cocks, without a cocks behind, in the crew behind, it becomes very, very difficult to see where you are. You're having to look round, which is not good for the balance, etc. anyway. So really, Molesey look as though they have this in the bag, barring disaster.
Yeah, and there you are. They just crossed the line there. So it's Molesey through to the final against the winners of the next race, which is on the start. We can watch this one get underway. City of Oxford are on the Berkshire station, and York City are on the Buckinghamshire station. The umpire is standing up, giving a roll call, telling the crews how he will address them should he need to during the course of the race. And you will see the flag any moment now go up. there we go. The flag is dropped and they're off.
And it's an extraordinary course because you start in near silence up at the tucked in behind the island. It's a beautiful, quiet, serene place. The nerves obviously are jangling, but it's a quiet place. And as you come down the course and you come towards the enclosures, you come into this cathedral of noise. And so it's a very strange way to race, where you start in near silence and then suddenly there's this wall of noise that comes at you.
And City of Oxford with the better start there. What have they pushed out to? Maybe 3/4 of a length?
Yep, that's a lovely early lead for them. Just coming out of the back end of the island now. That any wind there is out there will now begin to impact the two crews. It's fairly light, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem for them.
And the drone shot from above, you need to be reminded that these are juniors. I mean, the quality of the sculling is and has been absolutely superb.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I mentioned a minute ago that, you know, how things have changed in the last 10 years or so, but the depth of quality and talent out there now in women's rowing is wonderful to see. And these guys are, you know, youngsters, real youngsters. They've got their whole rowing careers ahead of them still, and yet they're performing at this level already and producing some fantastic rowing. So actually critical part of the race now. If City of Oxford can push now and get away, cut the string, leave these guys from York behind, it becomes that so much harder for them again. They'll be talking to each other on board in both boats, encouraging each other, trying to get themselves to push on. York desperate not to get left and dropped at this point. And as they come by us in the commentary box, it looks fairly comfortable. City of Oxford sitting now just over a length in front and in real control.
And there's effort going in, but it almost looks effortless, that, doesn't it, as they pass us?
It does. It's that's the secret to it, really, isn't it? Applying all that power and making it look so easy.
Well, they've done a good job there, City of Oxford. There's no two ways about it, as they are only a third of the way down this this course, Jerry. A couple of big regattas here in the last century.
Yeah, two Olympics. 1908, 1948.
I didn't make either of them.
No.
Despite you thinking I'm an old what's it, I did not make either of them. No, City of Oxford leading, heading into the enclosure area.
And they'll be sitting there now talking to each other and really trying to run this race without wasting energy. They've got a final to come later in the day. So this now is about winning the race comfortably, not letting City of York back into the race, but equally conserving all that energy for the final. It's now down to the silverware for them. They're looking at the grand prize.
And the next pair of semis we have is the junior Cox Fours. This sees Putney High School A against Lower Merion High School from the United States of America. Putney very impressive yesterday, and they are in one half of the semi. The other semi-final is Headington against Henley. Now there's a junior rivalry that's been going on for a fair few years.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, two of the I probably shouldn't say it, but two of the best programs for junior girls rowing in the country. I think really they're such a polished outfit, both of them. Headington have been around a long time. They had a long-established rivalry with LEH, and those two were at it hammer and tongs for years and years. And now Henley have joined the party and added some spice to it.
So City of Oxford making their way down to the finish, and they've controlled this race beautifully. So they've got a bit of energy left for their final up against Molesey Boat Club a little later on this afternoon. Putney High School Merion is underway. Putney High nearest to us. Now I was watching their race yesterday, and they are not the biggest of crews, but by gum, they really do punch that boat along. Be interesting to see what happens here. Lower Merion High School from the the United States of America progressed well in this competition. So let's see how this pans out.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Putney High School. My daughter went there some years ago, and they train out on the tideway. And anyone who trains out on the tideway, you take your hat off to. The conditions out there can be treacherous at times. So I'm sure they'll be enjoying the lovely, flat, calm conditions of the Upper Thames.
And at the top of the island, not too much in this one, Jerry.
No. Marion obviously making the decision to travel from the US, so clearly come here with good credentials, and I'm sure they won't give up easily. Putney are going to have their work cut out here, I think.
And we've just seen City of Oxford cross the line, and they congratulate each other. The final a little later on awaits them as we look out and we see that Putney High School have managed to get the slightest of leads over the American four.
Yeah, this looks like a cracking racing prospect here, actually, as they come by us under the commentary box. Putney look to have, indeed, a little lead, very slight, perhaps a third of a length or so. One of the lovely things for these girls is they can focus purely on the rowing. There's no steering issues because they've got a cox on board with them. So it's literally about going through the motions, doing what they need to do, absolutely focused on where they are in the stroke, etc.
And we could hear the coxes there giving instructions, constantly talking actually to the crews, and all we could see was a little cap and a pair of eyes peeking over the front of these boats and urging, calling instructions. They would have had preset calls, and it's debatable whether they use them. When they get side by side, that can change.
Yeah, it does. In the fury of battle, when it's side by side, and the thing about this sort of racing is it's 2 lane, and a lot of these girls train on race on 2,000 metre courses, so a longer course, and also they race at six abreast. So national schools, etc. You can finish second and still move through to the next round. Here, clearly, you can't. If you finish second, you're going home. So it's the heat of battle when they're side by side. Things can unravel a little bit.
And Putney High School pushed out now to almost a length's lead as they're heading into the enclosures. They'll hit that wall of noise. The enclosures really, really good today. Plenty of people up there, lots of atmosphere. Every race gets cheered, and it's just a wonderful atmosphere at Henley Women's Regatta. A regatta that's grown and grown over the years. I've been involved with it for quite a few years, and for me, this year's been one of the best.
Yeah, beautiful. So Marion actually pushing back, really having a crack at it, see what they can do, throwing everything at it. I'm sure they're aware this is it, a one shot. They've got one shot to haul this back.
Headington Henley just got underway. Headington on the towpath side, Henley, who obviously train on this course, and the programme there run by Leon Redman at the moment. They're hoping to get I think at least 3 crews on the last count into the final, and here they are in this, the junior coxed fours semi-final up against their old rivals Headington.
And just at the top of the screen you see Putney High School still in front. Track unwinding very fast now, almost there. That looks like a win for Putney.
Yeah, I think there's still probably a little bit to go in that one, Jerry. This is the last camera shot as they sweep in towards the finish. So
Marion have jacked the rate.
Actually, this isn't over, is it?
No,
So we've got a race developing right under our nose. Henley have just managed to get slightly ahead of Headington, but in the other semi, it's all on here. Putney.
Marion have really ramped the rate and going for them.
Putney are coming under attack from the Americans. There's about half a dozen strokes from now.
I think they've probably just got enough, haven't they? Yeah, they have just got enough.
Yeah, well, we called that right. Okay, and passing us, it's Henley with now third of a length's lead in the Henley crew. Mary Wright, she got a GB vest last year. She's studying at the Henley College. She's actually from Birmingham and moved down here for the rowing to join what she considered to be the best club.
Yeah, that has that reputation now, doesn't it? It's become a magnet for people who want to succeed. Henley's a place to go to. Having said that, Headington are making a race of it. They really are. They look long, they look relaxed. It's quite tidy and clean from the drone shot. And Henley are going to have to push on and win this. Headington won't roll over. They're a very, very polished unit. The programme's good. It's very strong. It's well established. This certainly is going to be a race.
Well, the winner of this will, of course, meet the winner of the last race, which was Putney High School. We will await the official result when it comes up. I'll let you have that. Next up, 2 o'clock, we have the championship quads. Then it's championship 8's semi-finals, and the first of the finals to take place at 2:20.
So Henley have pushed out just over a length now, a little bit of clear water, which obviously makes it that much more comfortable. Ironically, in this kind of racing where you've got a front loading boat, so the cox lies down at the front, the cox of the leading boat can't now see the crew behind them. So she's getting communication given to her by somebody in that crew. So one of the athletes will be communicating, letting her know where they are, so that she can make the appropriate calls going forward.
I'm going to just give a quick roundup of results here. Let's go back to race number 350. That was a win for Oxford Brookes, 2.5 lengths. That was Aspirational Academic 8s. Newcastle University winning their semi in time of 4:50, 1.5 lengths. The junior quads, Latimer Upper, 3/4 of a length over Marlow, and excuse me, Henley Rowing Club beating Headington School 1.5 lengths. The junior double sculls was a win for Molesey Boat Club over Maidenhead, 3 lengths, 5:39. And the other half of that semi was a win for City of Oxford over York City, 3rd of a length, 5:54. Putney High School overcame Lower Merton High School from the United States of America. Cracking race, that half length. And we're watching the conclusion of Headington and Henley. Next up we have championship quads, and I'm going to hand over to Zoe de Toledo, who's been a very busy young lady at this regatta. She's been on the back of a boat. She's been in here commentating. She's been off and bought a couple of frocks for prize giving. Oh, I made that up. Hello, Zoe. How are you?
Can I just borrow one of your frocks instead?
Yep, so a win for Henley. Again, fairly comfortable in the end. Headington made a good race of it for the first 750 or so, but Henley and the strength of that squad, the depth of that squad prevailing.
So coming up next, we have a race of the championship quads between Thames Rowing Club on the Berkshire Station and University of London A on the Buckinghamshire Station. They're just under starters' orders now. Hopefully we'll see them getting away soon.
And you can see, again, from that drone shot, just how empty and peaceful it is up there at the start. The bank is sparsely populated. Very, very different story to when you come down the course to the main enclosures and so on. So the noise up there is very small. shot, isn't it? A drone shot.
And they are underway now in the first semi-final of the championship quads. You can see Thames Rowing Club at the bottom of your picture there, and the University of London just creeping out of sight there on the right-hand side of your screen. Looks like a really fast and furious start from both crews there as they head up towards the end of Temple Island. They will have had that quiet time on the start. Now they're thrown straight in to the pressure of this race.
So both crews throwing everything at it early on. Both, again, it's Cox-less boats. Therefore, the importance of being in front can't be overstated. So they'll both crews will be aware that if you can get that advantage and get clear, you can control things from out front.
Yeah, I think when you get to this point in the competition, you know, you've got to be prepared for anything. You've really got to make sure that you go out and you have a good race plan and you stick to it no matter what. Well, I say no matter what, but it's also match racing, so there has to be a little bit of give or take, really. You have to be ready to respond to something unusual that might come along, but at the same time, you still need to get from A to B as fast as possible. It sounds trite, but obviously that's the way it works. So you have to make sure that you don't get drawn into any games with your opposition that might not be to your best interest. But as the crews come down towards us now, this is like an absolutely fantastic race here in the championship quads. And we have Thames leading this race by maybe half a length, 3/4 of a length.
Yeah, critical here for them. If they can break that lead now and get out and get some clear water between them, they really can take over and control this race. They're very, very fast boats, 8s and quads, 2 of the quickest boats out there, and so these girls are going to be very technical, and they're exactly what Zoe was saying about making sure you row your own race. They'll both have slightly different race plans, but these are champ boats, so these are experienced athletes. These are not novices or J16s, so these guys will know exactly what's going on board. They'll be calm, cool, just trying to stick to the pre-organised race plan.
Of course, with Henley Royal Regatta coming up in a few weeks, these women might be looking to take on some of the international opposition that will come into racing there in a few weeks' time. So for them, really important to get this experience, but also to get one up over any opposition that they might see again there. But really smooth looking racing here from Thames. If you look at the way that they're just holding themselves in quite a relaxed fashion, and actually, yes, they're racing and yes, they're working hard, but actually you can see them talking to each other, you can see them communicating, and actually they look pretty confident in what they're doing here, would you say?
I would, and it's obviously that much easier to do when you're out in front, which they are now. But they had to work together. This is not a one-sided race, or it certainly wasn't in the first 500. So yeah, they're making it look very comfortable, very smooth, very relaxed. And for them, don't forget, these guys are used to racing 2K. So racing 1500 is far more of a sprint for these guys. So going out hard, fast in the first half of this race is what you're going to see, and it's what you have seen.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right there, and it's so easy to be caught out by suddenly going to 1500 metre racing rather than 2K. You know, if there's a mistake or if your start hasn't gone quite to plan, there really isn't much time to actually get your race back on track. So you've got to be very, very switched on, and you've got to be prepared to kind of hold your hand in the fire a little bit earlier for a little bit longer, because there's not really much time to settle down in the middle part of the race.
Absolutely. It's do or die early on. That's the key, I think, with this stuff. Fast start, get out early, push on, see what you can do. Have the confidence to throw it all out there and see what happens. But, it doesn't mean that if you're behind you can't win. It just means that it's that much harder to do because the track is so much shorter.
Absolutely. This UL crew here really refusing to be shaken by this. Still good quality, nice technical rowing coming towards us. You can see from this angle just those blades slotting into the water, nice and sharp, well timed together. We can also just see coming up on the screen now the next next semi-final, in this championship quads. Newcastle University on the Berkshire station versus Leander on the Buckinghamshire station.
The Thames look as though they've got control of this race now, just as it winds into the end there. Again, one of the key things at this stage of a regatta like Henley Women's is that these are semi-finals, and the regatta ends fairly shortly, so they're going to have to race again to win the silverware. So you don't waste unnecessary energy. You get out in front, try and control the race and manage that process through.
It looks like Newcastle have had a very punchy start here to get out about a length, slightly under a length lead over Leander here.
Yeah, those Leander blades look a little bit deep in the water, don't they? Just a little bit of drag on there. You can see it's not quite as clean as Newcastle, I think, maybe.
Absolutely, they're being matched stroke for stroke here on the rate. Just looks like they're sitting at about a length at the moment. So we'll see what Leander's response is to that early lead from Newcastle University in these championship quads. Just very quickly, we'll bring you an earlier result. It was a win for Henley Rowing Club over Headington School in the junior coxed fours by around 3 lengths in a time of 5:27. And it is Newcastle now with just clear water as they come past our commentary box and move towards the barrier and then to the enclosures. And actually a lot of experience in that Leander boat. So I'm surprised, I must say, to see them where they are at the moment. So I don't know how the rest of this race will play out, but interesting to see them, put under pressure early on.
I'm sure Newcastle came here with a game plan to go out and try and give Leander a bloody nose on their own water, and that would have meant getting out like a scalded cat off the start and see what you can do. Turn the screw, put them under pressure, and see what Leander have got. This track, as I say, is only 1,500 metres long, so they haven't got long to turn this round. Leander have to have a response and have a response quickly.
And it does look like it's holding at about that length there. I think in match racing, this is one of the times we talk about as being quite pivotal in the race. So, you can let a crew get half a length up, you can let a crew get 3/4 of a length up. But once a crew has got clear water on you, then not only is it difficult for the rowers to actually see where they are, but also you then start to get some unsettled water from that crew ahead of you. Even if they're not moving over into your lane, it does still start to become a little bit unsettled. So really important for that Leander crew now, if they want to stay in this race, to keep pushing on to the stern of that Newcastle crew. And we're also seeing now the start of a semi-final of the Championship 8s. So these should be some of the quickest boats at the entire regatta. And we have a composite crew from Durham University, Leander, Marlow, Molesey, Plymouth, Tideway Scullers, University of Birmingham, University of Bristol, and University of London on the Berkshire station. And they are racing Yale University on the Buckinghamshire station. Now that composite crew is an under 23 composite. Yep. I don't know. I don't know where they are in their selection procedure at the moment, but I think there's certainly ones to look out for, whether they will race in the 8 at under 23s or whether these will be top contenders for perhaps the 4 or the pair. Yeah. But great to see them here racing in their club colours at Henley Women's Regatta.
Yeah, there's a lot of power on board that boat. There really is. You can see it. I mean, it's a hugely powerful 8.
I don't think they've been rowing together for very long, actually. So to have clear water on a university crew that will be probably well drilled, have been rowing together for quite some time, is a pretty impressive sight to see. This is clear water now as they approach our commentary box, so before the barrier. Very, very punchy start from those two 8s. And we're just going back over to see that quads race that we were following before. And Leander have moved back in touch with Newcastle, but not enough to take that win there.
So this Yale crew, I believe, it's labelled as Yale C. I think it's actually Yale B. And Yale A is in the other semi-final, so they're coming up next. So again, a heroic effort from them taking on an under-23 squad, even though it's not been together very long. Taking on the GB under-23 squad on their essentially their own water. You're a long way from home, as Yale. So I think actually it's a nice race for the under-23s to have.
And with two Yale crews in those semi-finals, you've got to mention the strength in depth there that you can see so clearly from Yale University.
So these boats, obviously, to row these boats well and row them quickly, you've got to have an immense amount of power on board the 8. But equally, you've got to be very dexterous. When you release the blade from the puddle and allow the boat to move, that's the time at which you're looking to allow the boat to travel on and make distance for you. So the bigger and heavier and more powerful you are, the more risk there is you upset the balance of that boat. So it's a really tight balance between huge power in the drive phase and then this incredible control and relaxation through the recovery to allow the boat to make distance for you.
Absolutely true. And that's why we talk in rowing about power to weight ratio, because if you're very big but not very strong, you have to actually still be able to move your own body weight and the body weight of your crewmates. So really important that if you are a bigger athlete, you're also strong and you're technically proficient enough to actually be able to move that mass, because that's ultimately the name of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it here. I mean, this composite squad on the Berkshire station is really just having a lovely paddle now. They're sufficiently far out in front to have no concerns. In a Cox boat, there's no risk really of boom hitting. It's a very benign conditions out there, limited stream and wind, so they're just going to have a lovely paddle home now.
And while we're watching really good quality rowing here in that Championship 8s, I'll just give you an update on the Championship Quads heats that went just before. The first of those heats, there was a win for Thames Rowing Club over the University of London. That was a win of 2 lengths in a time of 5:04.8. And in the second heat, it was a win for Newcastle University over local club Leander in half a length and a time of 4:58.2. This is a difficult position to be in for a losing crew. You have to keep confident, you have to keep pressing and keep racing, but difficult to see where you can come back from this kind of deficit. Mind you, if you look at the under-23 crew, they haven't taken their foot off the gas at all. Whether they're just practicing a little bit of a burst into the finish, I don't know, but this is definitely still 100% going on here, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think they're sending a message, aren't they? This is who we are. You've got to come and beat us on our own water. They know that they've got an American crew against them up next. It's going to be either Yale A or University of Iowa, the winner of this next race, in the final later on today. So they're just sending a very clear message to these guys.
And you can see now that second heat of the Championship 8s that we mentioned. Yale University versus the University of Iowa. They look like they're just about getting themselves ready on the start line. As you mentioned, that quieter area down at the start there.
Certainly quieter, but the adrenaline and the nerves will be jangling, the adrenaline will be pumping.
And I think, a slightly overlooked area, especially in a Cox boat, it's about what you say here, what you do, how much you say. My opinion is that this isn't the time for a big speech or a big motivational lecture, because you need your rowers to be focused. You need to be thinking about actually the process and what you're going to do, but very difficult not to be thinking about the outcome and the goal and to actually focus on the process that's going to get you there.
Yeah, I think you just got to stay really focused on that first 250 metres. The frenzy of the start is very frenetic. The frenzy really